Good evening. The sun's down over Atlanta as we make our departure headed southbound in search of cooler climates. Join me today as we fly with Delta Airlines from Atlanta to Santiago de Chile in their premium select cabin. As we travel, I'll show you everything Delta has to offer in their premium economy product. We'll start our journey today in Atlanta, Georgia, where I arrived following a short hop from Nashville, Tennessee. We'll head out on an Airbus A350-900 for just over 8 hours before landing in Santiago. Arriving at our gate tonight, we were met with this massive bird just waiting to be boarded. Boarding tonight was delayed by about 30 minutes, and I found that despite the best efforts of Delta Airlines to organize the boarding procedure, the process was a bit disorganized. But soon we were all headed down the jet bridge to find our seat for the duration of this flight. Tonight I'd be seated in seat 24J, a window seat near the rear of the premium economy cabin, but not so far back as to be disturbed by any noise from the bassinets on the bulkhead of the Comfort Plus cabin. At first glance, this seat is roomy enough, very closely resembling the product on Delta's domestic business class. However, the armrests between the seats seem to be just a slight bit smaller, and I have to admit that I would not have minded having the option for a bit more shoulder space. For reference, my shoulders are pretty wide at about 24 inches or 61 centimeters of width. I found that my shoulder was just over the center line of the seat, and with the window to my right, I was a bit boxed in. However, when I was able to recline my seat, the placement of the window gave me a bit more room to breathe. The seats are pretty sharp looking with the Delta branded stitching on the back. I love what Delta did here with the look of this seat. The center console folds up to reveal the plug for the headphone jack, some storage space, and the controls for the seat recline as well as the IFE remote. I'd learned later on in the flight that the lack of seat width would contribute to me accidentally pressing the buttons on the IFE remote with my leg, which was a bit of a nuisance as I was trying to watch my programs. In the right armrest, there is a divided tray table. It folds out to form a 50% table or a full table, and it seems sturdy enough to get a little bit of work done during the flight. Recline of these seats is pretty generous and was way more than what I originally expected. Controlled by the controls on the right console, this seat also includes a leg rest and a footrest option to complement the recline. I will, however, note that since my knees were past the seat already, the leg rest didn't do me much good and I didn't feel as though there was quite enough legroom for me to effectively use the footrest. That said, I am fairly tall at 74 inches or 188 centimeters. I often find that leg rests designed by airlines are not quite suited for my stature. I found the seatback entertainment screens were fairly large, and the back of the seat in front of me also had a coat hook, which I did not use, as well as a standard seatback pocket. Before we pushed back from the gate, the pilot greeted us in a very cheery mood. We pushed back an hour late, but I do have to say that Delta handled the delay in good spirits, and it didn't contribute in any negative way to the flight overall. Following a short taxi, we were off on our journey. We banked to the south over the bright lights of the Atlanta suburbs, and with an air of excitement, I settled into my journey. Not long after we were in the air, the flight crew started their in-flight service. I was really impressed with how quickly service began. We were offered warm towels to clean our hands, a detail which I really appreciate. This really helps to distinguish Premium Select from their economy product. With towels distributed, flight crew took our drink orders. We were initially offered a choice of sparkling wine or water with a full drink service to follow with supper. Naturally, I went with the sparkling wine in this case. Before starting meal service, the flight attendants came around the cabin and placed tablecloths on each of the tray tables. It really was quite a nice touch to differentiate their premium economy product, and it really hyped the meal up. Perhaps a bit too much, because when the meal was brought out, it looked like just the standard economy class meal, just plated in a plastic tray. And that plastic tray was just a bit too small, since you can see that all the food items barely fit on the tray. It was nice having silverware with the meal, however, I do question Delta's decision to do so, since the food was still served in paper plates wrapped in tinfoil, albeit fancy tinfoil. As far as the meal quality goes, it was good. I had the ravioli, which came with quinoa, a salad, and a lemon blondie bar for dessert. My dad opted for the chicken option, which he said wasn't too dry and was pretty flavorful. Both options were pretty tasty, even if the presentation of the meal wasn't great. Next, let's take a look at the Amenity Kit provided by Delta on this evening's flight. Amenities came in this little cloth bag, which was great for the presentation. Inside the Amenity Kit, Delta provided earplugs, a toothbrush, some socks, toothpaste, and some lip balm. With meal service done, I changed into my Delta branded socks, brushed my teeth, and settled in for a few hours of sleep before we made our approach into Santiago. The recline of the seat was adequate for the duration of the flight, but I will mention that towards the end of the flight, the seat started to cut into my legs. Remember at the beginning of the video where I said that the leg rest didn't really work for my legs? Well, turns out that difference matters a little bit, and it did kind of cut into the amount of sleep that I was able to get on them. Due to some turbulence experienced on the flight, Delta was not able to offer a second service on this flight. I understand that safety is paramount and should always come first, but that said, I was still a little bit disappointed. As we made our approach to Santiago, I had some time to reflect on my flight so far. And as I reflected, one glaring question stood out. Is it worth the money to upgrade to Premium Select with Delta Airlines? And the answer I will give you is that it depends. I personally loved today's flight. However, aside from a few minor embellishments in appearance, I didn't see any major improvements over standard economy or extra legroom economy. I'll also note that my dad's greatest concern was at the tray table. For those of you who enjoy leaning on a tray table to sleep, it really isn't an option in this cabin. That's certainly something to consider before booking this flight. For me, today's flight was only an extra $150 per seat over economy, and for that amount, it was worth it. However, in an event where the price difference is several $100s or more, I'm not sure I'd pay it. And that said, I'm a larger passenger who values extra space. The ultimate fact of the matter is that while the extra space is nice, the service and product offered aren't different enough to justify a large price difference in my opinion. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'd like to thank you so much for flying with me today. I'd like to express the warmest gratitude to Delta Airlines for their hospitality. If you like this video and want to see more, please hit the subscribe button below. Until next time, so long.